This show is brought to you by NMDC Group.
The GCC and the US call for demarcation of Kuwait-Iraq maritime borders, and analysts anticipate the Fed pausing interest rate hikes tonight. You're watching the Daily Brief with Forbes. I'm Ramia Faraj. In a joint statement, the GCC and the U.S. have called for the complete demarcation of Kuwaiti-Iraqi maritime borders beyond boundary point 162. The land border between the two was demarcated by the UN in 1993 after Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, but it didn't cover the length of their maritime boundaries. This was left for the two oil producers to resolve. They also called on the Iraqi government to regulate maritime navigation in Khor Abdallah and ensure that the agreement remains in force. COP28 President-designate Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber emphasized the role of the private sector in sustainable climate finance as he opened trade on the New York Stock Exchange. Al-Jaber said collaboration between the public and private sectors is crucial to creating the new financial system. He said initiatives like the $4.5 billion Africa Green Investment Program demonstrate how public, private, and development funds can be used to attract more money and support green projects. Abu Dhabi's ADC Acquisition Corporation has entered into an agreement with ADQ Developmental Holding for a merger with Abu Dhabi-based United Printing and Publishing. Upon completion of the deal, UPP will become a publicly listed company on the Abu Dhabi bourse, marking the region's first SPAC merger process. UPP will have $299.5 million of proceeds from the SPAC and the PIPE fundraising. It implies an equity value of $169.6 million for UPP. ADQ will remain the largest shareholder. Analysts expect the Fed to pause interest rate hikes tonight at its meeting at 10 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. After 11 interest rate hikes since March last year, the central bank is trying to tame inflation while avoiding a recession. Despite rising slightly due to increased energy costs, inflation remains well below last year's peak. Economic growth remains robust and the unemployment rate sits close to record lows. Concerns, though, that the Fed may lift interest rates again or keep them at their current 22-year high for an extended period is weighing on investor sentiment. A key worry for investors is the latest bounce in oil prices, with both contracts heading towards $100 a barrel. This morning, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Shanghai, Sydney, Seoul, Singapore, Wellington, Taipei, and Manila all dropped. Overnight, all three main indices on Wall Street were in the red. One stock that was resistant to these interest rate worries was Instacart, which closed 12% higher in its Nasdaq debut. The stock initially skyrocketed 40% to open at $42, but closed at $33.70 as investors locked in their initial gains. Once valued at $39 billion, Instacart now has a fully diluted valuation of just over $11 billion at the close of its opening day. Instacart partners with 1,400 retail businesses to facilitate online grocery orders, pickups, and deliveries. China has urged increased cross-border connectivity with Russia and deeper mutual trade and investment cooperation as the allies vow to boost economic ties. After talks between Russian and Chinese economy and commerce ministers, officials said Sino-Russian economic and trade cooperation continues to deepen. Officials also confirmed President Putin's visit to Beijing next month. Moscow is fulfilling Chinese demand for oil and gas as well as for grain. In August, Chinese imports of Russian goods rose 3% from a year earlier to $11.5 billion. Global debt hit a record $307 trillion in Q2, despite rising interest rates curbing bank credit, with the U.S. and Japan driving the increase. The Institute of International Finance says global debt rose by $10 trillion in the first half of this year. The latest increase has lifted the global debt to GDP ratio to 336%. A slowdown in growth and a deceleration in price increases have caused nominal GDP to expand less slowly than debt levels, causing the debt ratio rise. And researchers at Google Deepmind, the tech giant's AI arm, have introduced a tool that predicts whether genetic mutations are likely to cause harm. It's a breakthrough that could help research into rare diseases. A typical human has 9,000 mutations in their genome. They can be harmless or cause diseases like cystic fibrosis or cancer or damage brain development. The Google Deepmind tool, called AlphaMeSense, reviewed these mutations and was able to predict 89% of them with 90% accuracy. I'm Ramia Faraj. This is the Daily Brief. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
This show is brought to you by NMDC Group.